Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is JT, and if you are hearing this, you have once again tuned to the Consequence of Habit podcast. This is usually the part where I would read an advertisement for Athletic Brewing Company, but being this week's guest is Bill Shufelt. He's the visionary, he's the co-founder, he's the one who came up with the crazy idea of starting a beer company that only sells non-alcoholic beer. I mean, think about that for a minute. I mean, it's like starting a coffee company that only sells decaffeinated coffee. It sounds insane, but he saw it. He saw the vision. Him and his wife both saw it, and then they executed it. And it was not seamless. This was a tough process, and I think that's what's so great about talking to Bill is you hear the amount of times he was rejected, the amount of times that people told him this is a terrible idea. Nobody wanted to give him money, but he persevered. He knew there was a market for it. He kept pressing forward, and here we are today. Their sales are up 500%. They've got investors like J.J. Watt and Lance Armstrong. Come on, man. I mean, it was really cool to have him on. Great story. Before we get to it, though, I ask you, please subscribe to this podcast. Please leave some feedback, and most importantly, I don't care if you do the other two, that's great. The most important thing is please tell a friend, share this thing. A lot of the stories, people come on here and they spill their heart, man. They talk about struggle. They talk about what it's like to go through some tough times and then come out the other side. So I believe these stories should be out to more people. So that's enough for me. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Bill Shufelt. All right, thanks for joining us. Bill, I want to, usually I start these podcasts off by reading an advertisement for Athletic Brewing, but being I have the co-founder on, I'm going to skip that part. You're making my job a little bit easier here, but I just really want to say thanks for coming on. I appreciate you joining the show.
JT, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk to you. Thanks for having me, and appreciate all the shout outs you've given us.
Yeah, this is... To say I'm excited to have you on is a bit of an understatement. So really, some of the things I want to get into is your vision, Bill. When you had this idea about non-alcoholic beer, now we see Athletic Brewing, we see the brand, what it's been built. What was your initial vision when you thought about this? I don't know, was that 2017?
Yeah, it was probably a few years before, and it was definitely an idea that had been percolating before. And I was never a guy who wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't have 50 ideas, and this was the one I chose. Like, I've really only had one idea ever and gotten totally obsessed with it. It really emerged out of my lifestyle. I mean, I was just a very normal, modern, trying to be healthy adult. And that involved everything from wanting to sleep better, wanting to be very high alert at my day job, wanting to be mindful with my friends and family, wanting to feel good when I wake up early to work out, wanting to enjoy going for long runs on the weekend, wanting to unlock more hours of the weekend, and not be hungover ever. And so all those things in my life that I think are super normal adult experience kind of led me away from alcohol. But I think at the same time, alcohol is such a part of society. And I still love going to all the nice restaurants. I was a huge foodie, huge beer guy. And you almost couldn't escape it, either if you were at a barbecue, a wedding, at the finish line of a race. Everything in theory involves alcohol, but really not that big a percentage of people actually drink alcohol in all those occasions. So there just weren't good beverages for a lot of people. And that's where the need really was felt originally and what it emerged out of. And then it just kept evolving from there. But it was really a very authentic need in my life.
The reason I ask you is because if you look at Athletic Brewing now and you see what's become of it, and from being somebody on the outside, I mean, it literally appears like you guys are on a rocket ship right now. And I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but for the amount I see it now, or other people I've run into, or they go, at least they've heard of it and they've heard really good things about it. When that idea comes to your brain and you have to sell it, right? Now it seems, oh yeah, sure, athletic brewing is around. But when you say, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to sell beer, and none of it, it's not like I've got this is going to be this little niche within my brewery. This is going to be the platform where I sell nothing but non-alcoholic beer. Do people think you're crazy at first? Like, how does that even work out?
Yeah, I will say for years, no one would talk to me and John. And it didn't matter how full your bank account was. Like, people wouldn't even like sell us equipment or like talk to us, which was crazy. I think it was one of those things where like the need was so obvious in plain sight. Like, everyone looked at this corner of the grocery store that like no one really understood. It was the penalty box. You hoped you never ended up there. But like, it existed. And like, it's amazing that it's something people have been drinking beer for thousands of years. And it's in occasions where it signifies you're with your friends, you're with your family, you're relaxing. And it's supposed to be such a positive thing. But there was this part of the beer world that actually aligns really well with modern healthy lifestyles. Mm-hmm. That was like so stuck in the past. And, it was almost like hiding in plain sight. And I think it was just intimidating enough and had just bad enough prohibition era stigmas left over that like people were scared to touch it really. Mm-hmm. And I think it took a little bit of delusion, like where like me and my brother were ordering beer, non-alcoholic beer from around the world, trying to figure out why it wasn't better. And like, how is this such an unmet need? Like, it's not only like what you want on a Friday and Saturday night, but it's a beer that fits into any hour of the day, any night of the week. It goes great with all sorts of food if done well. Mm. And so it was this constant pain point, and I couldn't believe that there was no good beer out there. And so I just started to read textbooks, and like read textbooks on nights and weekends. And it went from intellectual curiosity to, my goodness, this is such an unmet economic need, but also because it is so positive as a product, it had this huge potential impact on, really so in the US alone, there's 15 million adults with documented alcohol use disorder, which is a huge number of adults. But like outside of that, like there are all sorts of people who don't have unhealthy relationships with alcohol or are just shut out completely from social situations because they don't like to drink. And we thought there was this very clear path outside of the economic case for starting this business that we could have a clear positive impact on tens of millions of lives in their health, in their inclusion, in social situations, and just the offerings out there. And so like those two things combined was like a no-brainer go for me. The only challenge is there is this chance that we cannot actually make this product. And so
there's that.
That's where, yeah. And so I probably got rejected by about 200 brewers before I met John. Like I would go to brewers conferences and talk to people all day and not get anywhere really. And the brewing community is an awesome group of people, and they're super creative, very scientific, very welcoming. But also none of them had seen any evidence that anyone was interested in non-alcoholic beer. But that's also because there was no good product, so no one was asking for it. And there was no marketing, so there was no R&D. And I got over a 6-month period after I quit my job, I got rejected by about the first 200 people I talked to. And then finally John applied. And at that point, like the job description had nothing about non-alcoholic beer on it at that point. And John was like by far the most talented guy I had talked to during the whole time. And he was the first person to see the potential for the idea for what it was. Yeah. And he was like, can I just have the weekend to digest this before we have another conversation? And he called me back on Monday and he was like, the impact is so clear and the occasion base is so clear. And he's like, I'm totally down for this innovation and scientific challenge. And John moved his family across the country from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Connecticut. We leased a 10,000 square foot empty warehouse, and it was just two guys and Gatorade jugs home brewing for about a year. Wow. In an empty warehouse. So it was definitely brick by brick. So like anything that is out in the world now has a very long foundation of rejection and scientific discovery behind it, for sure.
Yeah.
So
was there points along the way where you were second guessing this, where you're going, I see the need for it, but the process is too time consuming. I have this nest egg that is dwindling quickly. Is there any point in this where you're like, hey man, I think we might need to pull the plug on it?
Me and my wife, so my wife was the one who actually connected the dots. Like, I'm not sure she saw the positive changes in my lifestyle. She heard the idea and she was like, oh my goodness, you have to do this. Like, and so my wife has been such a great supporter. And after my research 2 years in, she was like, you have to quit your job. She basically sat me down at the end of December one year and it was basically like, I want you to go in and quit tomorrow. And I was like, whoa. And she was like, this is your calling. I don't want to see you in 10 years having passed on this. And so she was like, we can figure it out and budget for 3 years. If it doesn't work for 3 years, you can always go back. And so I'm extremely thankful for her in that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt super dark times of rejection where fundraising for our first brewery was very tough. We knew we had to build our own building and no one had ever built a brewery for non-alcoholic beer before. We didn't have any product that we could take around to investors yet. So we were it's very hard to raise money for a new product that's changing a category without the actual product to show people.
Right.
And so I ended up having to do about 120 investor meetings to build our first brewery in Connecticut. And it was all super small checks. We have an incredible group of investors. But there was a while about 2 or 3 months in where I had made almost no progress and been pretty much shot down by everyone I talked to, or I just hadn't heard back from so many people. And people are funny about money, and I didn't want to corner people or pressure them. So I wasn't really beating down their door to get an answer. And there was maybe one day where I was like, I can't put my name on this lease because I don't know if we're going to get there. And my wife was like, you absolutely have to do it. And it was full stop, go forward. And any moment where she's usually my governor, where I'm delusionally optimistic and trying to go too fast. And she's like, this is your budget. Be more thoughtful. No. But in those times where I've been very dark, she's picked me up too. And all of a sudden, within weeks after that, we had an unbelievable wave of people coming back and fundraising. And I'm really not sure how we went from that point to the fully funded round, but we have all of a sudden we had an amazing investor team who supported us all the way through our growth. And we built this great brewery in Connecticut and then used that to buy this brewery in San Diego too. And so we've been super fortunate.
It's interesting to even have this conversation with you just because of the article that was, I don't know if it was put out today, but where some of the investors now are their names are being listed. And these are heavy hitters. This is J.J. Watt, Lance Armstrong. I mean, these are big names. So, anytime you think of innovation, the innovators are the ones that after, they have this idea of what something has a potential to be. And then everyone tells them they're crazy. And then once it becomes what, it blows up, then everyone sits around scratching their head going, God, I should have thought about that. I mean, within the community that enjoys good beer, there are those people that I'm going to guess maybe like yourself. I know, like me, I was considering myself a beer snob. I still do. I'm a beer snob for non-alcoholic beer now. But
I love it.
Yeah. But alcohol was compromising so many aspects of my life. And I've said it on here before. I mean, whether you're talking about being a father, whatever your job is, a husband, just so many aspects of your life. So the fact that Athletic Brewing has that logo, without compromise, to me, it was so fitting because that's exactly what alcohol was doing to me. It was compromising me. So, and you kind of answered my next question. When I first stumbled on Athletic Brewing, the brand to me was more like, hey, we're people that are super active. We're outside. We're doing things. We're giving back to the community. And there's times that we want a beer that's not going to have us hungover the next day. And that was fantastic. But for me, it was a complete, this isn't dry January. This is dry January through December, and then we start again. So it was a complete. The other stuff was gone, and this was all I was going with. So yeah. I didn't know if that was part of what you were going for, or was it more just the guy who's got a race the next day, the guy who's got a businessman, man or woman with a business meeting the next day, and wants to have a clear head. But I think you kind of answered. You saw what the writing on the wall, like this could be for everybody.
Yeah, that is definitely the answer. We try to be inclusive of everyone in every occasion, and everyone's athletic in some way. Yeah. And that could be like the best ultra runner in the world. Like we have elite Ironmen who organically drank our product, like Ben Hoffman, who's one of our ambassadors, drank our product for a year before reaching out to us. But all the way to like people are athletic and playing video games, or being supremely talented at picking stocks, or like athletic is like a ethos that we're trying to take non-alcoholic beer kind of out of the penalty box and make it positive and aspirational. My experience was super similar to what you just described. I mean, when I cut back on my drinking and then stopped, it was like uncovering the biggest life hack I could imagine.
Yeah.
My intellectual curiosity ran into the evening like it hadn't in years. I was getting when the first few nights where all of a sudden my sleep, I was going from like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and I wouldn't wake up at all. It like blew my mind.
Yeah, right.
'Cause I would pretty much wake up every night previously at 3 or 4 a.m. super stressed out about the day ahead or worrying about anything. And when I worked out, I felt like I wanted to accelerate the whole time. And it was like I had unlocked like the biggest life hack, where alcohol had just been this numbness and limiter on so many areas. But not only that, it was also a big tail risk in life where in a world where we're 24/7 connected and have communication to every person we know in our pocket, there's real risk about like responding to a work email at 11 o'clock at night if you've had a few drinks, or something on social media, or alcohol is, but at the same time, like we're definitely not soapbox or prohibitionists. The world's a stressful place, and like alcohol is something humans have been drinking responsibly also for thousands of years. Sure. There's a huge wide range of responsibility, and I was not someone who could dependably stay on the responsible side, so it wasn't for me. But also it also like the risk reward wasn't there, because I didn't feel better when I drank it, and like it was just performance numbing in a lot of ways. So I think that's how a lot of these people have actually organically found us. Some of the names you just mentioned, like Blake Mykoski, the founder of Tom's Shoes, is a super high performing and charitable individual. And he was exploring cutting alcohol out of his life and found our beer and reached out directly. And then he discovered the like mission, impact, and environmental work we do. And so he's been a really early supporter. And having people like JJ Watt, Lance Armstrong, Ben Hoffman drink our beer, like our ambassador team is up and down, is incredible athletes. like Molly Seidel on our ambassador team finished second in the U.S. Olympic trials last year in her first marathon ever. And it's been so much fun, like the people who organically have found athletic.
It's an amazing. I'm sorry to cut you off. The ambassador group and the athletes. It's not only are they amazing athletes, it's been such a cool group to be even part of, and so open to the fact that you can interact. I mean, I've had some of them on the podcast. I'm going to have more of them on the podcast, and it's become like this little community that supports each other, and they're on the same. They all have the same goal. So it's a very cool thing.
Yeah, it's some of the stories are incredible of people, and it's like the athletic feats, the stories, the life turnarounds. Like we have the FKT king, Jason Hardrath, out there going for 100 FKTs. On any given week, the midweek medals are just absolutely astonishing. Yeah. In that, it's absolutely crazy. Like the ultras people are doing, or the community efforts people are doing. It's just all stuff we're so proud to be associated with.
Yeah, I actually just had Jason on last week. It's not out yet, but what an amazing guy he is. It was so good that we're going to make it a two-parter, because he's got such a nice. Powerful story that I think it deserves 2 episodes. Did you understand, or obviously you knew this was going to have an impact for people trying to become a better version of themselves, trying to just maybe either cut out alcohol or reduce the amount they're drinking, or just not drink alcohol at all. Has it been surprising to you how impactful it's been?
I had this gut feeling that we had this huge potential positive impact to have. And so I hate to say it's like kind of what we had hoped. It has definitely exceeded my expectations. And I think that's due to our team. It's due to how talented John and the brewing team is. It's due to how great our outward facing team in the world is. I think like we've been such a magnet to amazing people in the ambassador program and on our team at Athletic, that like, just because I had the first idea, it's that like ethos that we've taken to our next 100 ideas. And there are people all over our company and ambassador team who are smarter and better at executing that than I am. We're just kind of giving a forum for great people to do work. But it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it's something that's great to like the moment my feet hit the floor in the morning is all I want to be doing. And like, I have so much fun working with our team. So yeah,
that's absolutely, that's awesome. Hey, if you'll indulge me, I want to tell you my athletic brewing story. I had quit drinking. I didn't really drink any non-alcoholic beer for, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year. And I was doing a podcast. You and I have actually texted before, and I don't know if you remember it, but I was doing a podcast for Killcliff and the performance drink. And I was advertising athletic brewing on the Killcliff podcast, because I'm like, man, sometimes you just see a company and you have a product and you go, oh man, this is exactly what I need. And if I need it that much, I'm going to assume there's a bunch of other people, right? Because within the world of beer drinkers, there is a subset of people that enjoyed good beer, but really had some issues with alcohol. And I'm going to say I was like you, where, I had problems of, I would hide my drinking behind drinking really good beer. Right. So, there was a reason I wasn't drinking your daytime beers. I liked my heavy IPAs. And I do enjoy the taste of it. But it was through having that and wanting to spread the word of it. And it's truly been a huge part of my journey. I mean, it's taking those conversations that I was having to have on a regular basis at parties, of why I was sitting there with club soda, why I wasn't drinking beer, because all my friends were good. I mean, they enjoyed good beer as well. And those conversations can be exhausting. You know, once or twice,
Yeah.
like, I get it. Like, I don't drink. But with this, it made things much, much easier. And then on top of it, I was having some great beer. You know, you mentioned some of how Athletic Brewing is giving back to the community, whether that be through helping issues with the environment. You guys put out a report. I think I saw it was a couple of weeks ago of all the things you've done in 2020. Was that something you knew right from the get-go? Hey, I want to give back to the community. Is it something, you know, at some point where you guys were making good enough money, we said, we're gonna do this. You know, this is gonna be part of Athletic Brewing, or was it that way from the very beginning?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for your story. I mean, I think that's such a common. It's such a great story, but it's like I think that need was so unmet for so many people for so long. Like having to be at a work dinner or social function or wedding, and like the landscape of options outside of like sugary soda and coffee, there's like nothing to pair with a meal. There's nothing you could be possibly proud of holding in your hand.
Yeah.
And unless like the very rare restaurant or bar that had like an elaborate non-alcoholic cocktail menu. And so it's all those questions were so tiresome, and people asking like, what's wrong with you? And I'd say, you know, I'm going for a 12-mile run tomorrow. I like just don't see the point of beer. Or like if I was at a work dinner, I'm like, you know, I feel better when I don't drink, so I'm not drinking. And like people are like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And I'm like,
Right.
yeah. But there's like millions of people all over the country answering those questions every day. And like, we're so happy to help people deal with that. And not only that, have something where they then turn the label in their hand and are like, look at this, and be proud of that healthy decision also. And then share that with their friends, and that health impact spreads to them. So definitely the impact we're seeking to serve in the world. Yeah. On the environmental and Two for the Trails, I mean, Two for the Trails is something I had written down in one of my first notebooks from like month one in 2015, as I was like really starting to dive into this. And it was kind of around the ethos that like such an important part of health is just getting access to the outdoors, being healthy, active, and like the outdoors and trails play such a big part in that. And like the environmental concerns get worse every year, and there's almost nothing being done. And the thought was kind of, if a small company could do its part and like set an example, it could be a blueprint that then starts to pressure bigger and bigger companies. Like, so we like to think of it as like doing our part. Yes, positively impacting the community around us, impacting people's health, and then pressuring bigger corporations to make the same impact. And I think like so many companies write like a blanket check. We like to donate everywhere, basically across the country. And like, there's so many places that need TLC, from like a local urban park all the way to like the most remote. An example is like Maine Hudson Trails last winter was not going to open for the season. They had a budget shortfall, but it's this incredible. We helped them stay open last winter with our program.
Wow.
So we're super proud of that.
Amazing.
Yeah. And in that annual summary, kind of in my conversations with our teammates, I realized that not even all our teammates knew the extent of our impact in 2020. So we sent that out to the team. And our Two for the Trails program ended up donating over $300,000 to trail and park cleanups across the country. But as 2020 went on, and like there were obviously real needs in the world, and like real urgent problems and issues like beyond just the broader environmental needs. We at first in April and May, helped support the National Restaurant Association Employee Relief Fund. We did 10% of sales for 2 months and donated over $100,000 to displaced restaurant workers. And then in June and July, we made 7 different donations, all over $10,000, to support charities and organizations that were positively impacting communities of people of color, Black communities, underprivileged, and like really support education and opportunity.
Yeah.
And those are all things that we're really excited to grow in the year ahead, including funding a brewing scholarship for people of color as well. And then we also, another part of our program, like we did a number of collaboration beers too, where we, anything from supporting veterans to fighting cancer. So our impact program really grew this year and was over $500,000 total.
Yeah. So I'm a veteran myself, and when I was super stoked to see you guys come out with your what is it?
The Addie's IPA.
Your Addie's IPA.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, it actually, what you guys are doing, it has inspired. It's inspired me. So I'm on this journey, right? I stopped drinking, and I'm trying to promote that there's consequences to our habits, good and bad, right? And I started getting all these positive feedback coming back to me, and I wanted the message. I want it to be more than just a platform for people to come on and tell their stories, as important as that is. So, man, you guys, I saw what you're doing, and Consequence of Habit has now started a nonprofit, and we're trying to organize events for veterans and first responders, because within those communities, a lot of people have been self-medicating for a long time, and it's not serving them right in long term. So, I see opportunities to hold events or either help people find treatment or however they need to go. So you guys are having probably a bigger impact than you even realize by inspiring other people that are seeing what you're doing and I don't know, motivate them to start making their own changes. I get on and I talk about, hey, this is a great product, but it's very easy to stand behind them. Other than just the product, because when you see what Athletic Brewing is doing for the communities, that it's a pretty cool thing, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you guys are going to be doing in 2021.
Thank you so much. It's unbelievable the service our veterans have done for this country, and so we are very proud to do our smallest part we can, and we definitely have a lot of work to be done. It's something that we're really excited to grow in the years ahead.
Yeah. The brewery that you ended up buying out in San Diego, was that the Ballast Point Brewery?
It was one of Ballast Point's breweries, yeah. So they still have another facility across the street. But yeah, it was the last brewery they built. So it was a great new production facility that we're super excited about.
I think that for a lot of people, especially a lot of the beer drinkers that I know that don't drink non-alcoholic beer, and I would be holding a can and they go, what is that? And I would explain it to them. I said, well, they started in Connecticut, but they just bought one of Ballast Point's breweries. They bought one of Ballast Point's breweries? And that was that gave you guys street cred. That was one of the things that really seemed to people's eyes lit up when they heard that.
Yeah, this San Diego brewing community is absolutely incredible. The work Ballast Point and breweries like Stone and Carl Strauss have done building the San Diego brewing community out here is amazing. And it's a great building. It was the last brewery they built. It was actually really fit our brewing needs very well with our process. We brew with a totally unique process relative to how non-alcoholic beer has always been made. It's about 10 times the size of our Connecticut brewery. So we can do about 150,000 barrels of beer out here per year.
Wow.
If we need it. Definitely some room to grow there. And, we put a brand new canning line from Krohn's, based out of Germany, that can do up to 225 cans a minute. So really fires the cans out.
Yeah, that was one of my next questions is things are growing so quick. I mean, you guys are up, sales are up 500%. And from, what I've seen, even the dry January is it's become way bigger than I've ever seen it before. How did you guys be able to scale up so quick to even meet the demand that's out there?
Well, we're very thankful for the community that stuck with us while we couldn't meet that demand. 2019 was a very tough year as we were trying to get more beer out to our community. And we're super thankful for people being patient with us. But we're super excited to have this big brewery now. We have an incredible team on both coasts cranking out beer. And we sold over 30 different, so there's a lot of fun R&D and different stuff going on our website any given week. But yeah, we're really just having fun with it now.
Yeah, I imagine so. I know you got to get going soon, but just when a lot of people have no idea how the process is to brew a non-alcoholic beer, especially to get it taste so identical to some of the other beers they've maybe had. What are some of the challenges to pull that off? I mean, I had put a Twitter post a while ago, like these guys like Robert Johnson make a deal with the devil at the crossroads. Like how are they pulling this off?
Well, I think a lot of it stems from John's original talent. John's one of those people that you call a super taster. Like I always thought we'd need to have these big tasting panels, and it turns out John is just extremely talented, but also really thoughtful. I mean, I had done that 2 years of research about like why, like non-alcoholic brewing processes and brewing processes overall, and tried to take what we could from the traditional brewing world and translate it to non-alcoholic brewing processes. And it was really John's thoughtfulness, creativity, and his approach with the scientific method to that process. Like I thought we had a way that was, I was like, I think this is the way we're going to end up doing it. And he was like, that's great. We're going to start all the way over here and we're going to change 1 degree in every tank every day. And it's probably going to take us 100 iterations to get there, but then we'll know every element of our process. And it actually blew me away how disciplined he was in that approach. And to his word, like over that time frame, we brewed 1 or 2 batches every day on Gatorade jugs. And at the end of that time period, like we had a great handle on what was going on. And so I think it's just, we do it in a totally different way than anyone else has done it, where most people use an industrialized machine. We have a totally different all natural process that fully ferments beer just to super slow levels. So
that was a question. Like, does it produce more waste? Like how much longer than normal beer? What does that look like?
It depends on the tank. Some tanks are significantly longer and shorter than traditional brewing. And we do things at non-traditional temperatures also from time to time. So it's really not like one answer where like, oh, our process is different at this exact moment. Yeah. It's pretty much the whole thing is different in a lot of ways. Yeah.
That's interesting. So. It's funny because I just met with, I met with he was a former head of sustainability for Coca-Cola and an engineer that had left. And it's going to be one of the sponsors of the podcast. And it's the same technology that Sierra Nevada uses to clean all of their tanks without using chemicals. I'm trying to get on.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. Maybe I'll have to try and get you guys in touch with each other because it's the byproduct after everything is clean is just water. It's just oxygen. So it's a pretty neat thing. But
wow,
yeah,
I'd love to hear more about that for sure. I'll be tuning in for sure.
Yeah, well, if you're good with it, maybe I'll try and connect you guys because I think, I mean, who knows? I can't pretend to know everything about the technology, but it's just ironic because I just met with these guys literally yesterday. And they were talking about it.
Yeah.
But Bill, I truly.
Yeah, we're super.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say we're super interested in the sustainability front. We're working on everything from water recapture to we're covering the whole roof of our San Diego brewery with solar panels as we speak. So hopefully that facility will be off the grid soon. So yeah, we're definitely moving on a lot of those fronts right now.
Oh, cool. I'll definitely have to get you guys in touch with each other. What's the plans? The last question. I know you guys are in Canada. I think I heard some whispers about Europe. Is what's in the works?
Yeah. So we're gonna try to get beer as wide as we can on e-commerce. Canada, we're already live. The UK and Europe will be very soon, and probably Australia shortly after that. So just it won't be in every store or anything, but we're just trying to make our beer more widely available. Just because we do get a lot of questions and we hate saying no. So
yeah, and I get them. I get people that are over in Europe that hit me up. They're like, hey, I hear you talking about it all the time. How do I get my hands on it? And I go, I have no idea. I have no clue. But it sounds like that's going to be remedied soon.
So yeah, by April 1st, hopefully.
Cool. I'm not going to hold you anymore. It's been a true pleasure talking to you. Again, I very much appreciate you coming on the show. I'm very excited to see the direction Athletic Brewing's heading, and I look forward to some big things from you guys.
Thanks so much, JT. I really appreciate you having me on and the kind words. It's a privilege to be here, and thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. That's it from me. Huge thanks to Bill. Please log on to Athletic Brewing Company. Here's my promo code. Use capital COH 20 and get 20% off your first order. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll catch you next week.